Hey, good morning, world. It's Patrick Lovell coming to you on, what is today? I think it's Wednesday, April 12th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. my time. And thank you to all that spent the time and to check out my last Truth Bomb, which was definitely as heartfelt as I think anything I've ever done. For those of you just new to this and just kind of fishing around about what this is all about or who I am and that sort of thing, I'd encourage you to check out a video I dropped called "Is This the End or Just the Beginning?" And I think that was dated April 8th, probably 4 days ago. And I laid out kind of my, I don't know, circumference, if you will, of the symphony that's being played, the Devil's Symphony at that, and who I am and where I fit in the mix. And it was definitely a heartfelt sort of effort to try to connect you with where I am, but particularly from an emotional standpoint, because it was really tough. I said it a few times in that truth bomb that I just lost my cat, which had been around with me through the odyssey that everything I've been laying out to you guys, and it was profound. And like I happened to mention, I happened to rewatch that video recently, and I had said the words that her magnetic gaze is going to be a constant reminder of my consciousness about time, and time is always fleeting, and it's been that way ever since I did that truth bomb, and a lot has taken place since then. One thing I do want to mention is that, interestingly enough, I took the I took I decided to try to get I decided to pay for the blue check mark on Twitter, and I have yet to be, I guess, approved. And it's hilarious because you're looking at me. I'm Patrick Lovell, and my Twitter handle feed is Patrick Lovell1. And I've had this sense that I'm being completely toyed with on Twitter. And I don't trust a lot of social media. Just front page of the New York Times today is talking about the problems of morale at Facebook, or Meta as it's called now. And I can imagine just the pierced bubble at the offices in Palo Alto, where they have probably a campus where the cafeteria has the best food and wine, and people that can play basketball in between writing code and that sort of thing, and just absolute paradise, and then suddenly gone wrong. And I shouldn't laugh. I think that Meta's lost like an unbelievable amount of its market value. I think they've laid off like 25,000 people, and it's kind of sad, but in a kind of a way, it's like, what the fuck is Facebook anyway? But a giant manipulation. And you know what? I dropped off of Facebook a long time ago because I'm a lot more interested in dropping truth bombs and conversing with people under the umbrella of the mainstream fucking propaganda that we have to stomach night in and night out. And everybody on Facebook just wants to show how cool they are, all the great places they've been. All my friends are also successful, and they have just terrific lives, and look at how beautiful and smart my children are. Trust me, I've done that a long time until things went sideways, and I'm like, don't want to have anything to do with that. So I turned my attention social media wise to where everybody's angry. And everybody's willing to get into fights, and that's Twitter. But ironically, since Elon Musk took over, and like I said in my last truth bomb, Elon Musk just pulled the rug on Matt Taibbi, considering all things Twitter files. And it's like, I don't trust Elon Musk. I don't trust Twitter. I don't trust the algos. I don't trust that Saudi Arabia is a 4% owner of Twitter, considering everything I'm telling you. And who else knows who's behind the scenes in terms of, probably, some billionaire apparatus like the Mercers or somebody else. And these guys have got complete control of the fucking world. And it's really interesting because as much, I got to try to find the right sort of cross section of what I want to communicate to you this morning. Look, I've got one of the biggest pitches of my life in about 2 hours. And yes, I will shave before that. And the bottom line is with the executives of the company that created, among other things, Stranger Things. And I absolutely love that series. I put that into probably the top 4 category of series that I've just enjoyed over the course of the last 6 years or so. And, it's interesting. As much as the world is falling apart, in my business, there's been probably more opportunity than ever before if you can find the pathways to the right places because of the big streaming, monsters out there, and you can reach hundreds of millions of people. But if and only if you're giving them product that they're willing to put on their platforms, that's not going to be too controversial and entertaining that they'll then allow to blast to like hundreds of millions of people. So I found a passion project that is representative of this stuff that I bring to you guys every day, but masked in a kind of a fantasy world, and with stuff that's been important to me forever. And lo and behold, I've got this thing cooking, and if it happens, it's going to be a big deal, and I'm excited about it. But the only reason I bring that up is because, well, I guess twofold. One is that the reason I'm in this vein, in the space of people that create things like Stranger Things, is because we speak the same language. We understand the kind of world. If you just look at the actual, story plot and the themes and the arc and everything else, it's to basically manifest what it is that I'm trying to manifest to you. So in the case of Stranger Things, right, all of those cast of characters of Eleven and her friends, and all of the guys that were the Dungeons and Dragons geeks that had to face the what are they, the Dorgans, semi-Dorgans or something? I can't remember the name of the monsters and that sort of thing. But they just had this really great courage, and they had this great love for each other, and they were very loyal, and they were very honest, and they stood up to bullies and bad guys, and they just kept bringing it because they just had that sort of thing, and it's the spark. And it's like, I remember I was rewatching, the last episodes or I was just catching up on season 1 of Stranger Things, because it's been a while since I'd seen it, but I wanted to be ready for this meeting that I have today, which is a pretty goddamn big meeting. But the long and the short of it is that, one of the things that really just stuck in my brain was this moment when the character 11 says to Mike, she says, "Friends don't lie to each other." Yeah, that's right. Friends don't betray each other. Friends don't pull the rug on each other. Friends work together to find solutions to be, what they get where they want to go. And, that's kind of part and parcel to the tone that I hope I can connect with the original 1,300 of you out there that I know are out there. So, look, I mean, just in the last couple of days alone, we have seen more and more demonstrations that validate every single thing that I'm telling you. And like last night, I was privy to just watching, on a couple, I was switching back and forth between MSNBC and CNN with a couple of, quick stops on Fox, which I always do. And, all of these things are kind of predictable, but the feeling that I was getting watching these was like, oh my God, do you see how absolutely horrific things are? And this scenario with the lobby and the gun lobby and the deregulation for being able to purchase military grade weapons with AR-15s, and we're going to do this and that to try to deal with the situation. Oh, and then by the way, yeah, with the drug, with the abortions, I can't think of the name of that, but that just got yanked or is going to be maybe potentially yanked in certain states, and it's becoming this hotbed issue because again, the Republicans and the right are guns and abortion, right? And the reaction to that is, at least in mainstream bloviating, let's call them what they self-prescribed elites, are saying, well, we're going to have to take this to the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, they're talking about the plutocratic Supreme Court and all things that we just got revealed with, they think just got revealed as it relates to, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife Ginny Thomas, and the whole thing with that guy Cray out of Dallas and his Nazi paraphernalia and memorabilia. This is just straight out of fucking, I don't know, it's either Mad Magazine or I feel like it's like a, I don't know, somewhere between now that I'm in the midst of doing my role as a producer, because this is what producers do. You kind of compare a project that you're pitching to stuff that worked well in the past and successful to kind of paint a picture of what it is. And what I'm looking at is just some sort of satire from all of this insanity on display. Is like Mad Magazine meets National Lampoon in the worst sort of satirical, perverted, inverted, madness where characters are just out of their fucking minds. But then there's always a pocket of people that are genuine and that are real, that are good, that have character and that have some sort of honesty, and they love each other and they work with each other to overcome evil. really. Those are always, the plot line, right? And I mean, that's what I'm in the midst of. And so, what I'm bringing to you is that, look, the magnitude of the grift on display with media every single day is astounding. And it is exactly what it is that I'm trying to get you to understand, okay? Rupert Murdoch said it himself because he was subpoenaed in the Dominion lawsuit based on all things, revelations that the Fox empire, and it's not too dissimilar to what we see behind the scenes if you watch Succession, right? I mean, that's what it's based on. But the nature of Fox is a monumental grift. It's just simply a lie. They're all in on it. They're all actors. They're all people telling people on the far right what they want to hear to create hysteria, to lie to them, to pervert their minds, to spin them into hysteria, to get them to be basically, I don't know, zombie warriors for this situation that it's like, look, what I've told you before, Lyndon Baines Johnson, former president of the United States in the late 60s, after the Kennedy assassination, had been known to say that if you can convince the lowest rung white man that he's higher than the highest rung black man, you can pick his pockets all day. That's how this system works, okay, first and foremost. But what's going on with MAGA is that, okay, look, we're going to create book burnings. We're going to create, absolute freedom for people to buy AR-15s. But at the same time, we're going to control women's bodies, okay? Because they're pro-life. Do you not see the irony in that fucking bullshit? I mean, come on. It's just stupidity beyond comprehension. And yet these bloviating fools on mainstream media are like, oh yeah, we're going to fix the problem now. And then in addition to that, there was one anchor that, effectively, again, brings all of this attention to the calamity that's on, our doorstep with climate change and all of the things, built around that. And it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do? People, it's 2023. We've known about this stuff since at least the 70s, okay? But let me explain to you a couple of things that happened in between over the course of the last 23 years, basically. We had 9/11. What was 9/11? Man, I was going crazy on Facebook over the weekend, on Twitter, saying, look, if you're so stupid that you don't understand that whatever role Saudi Arabia's play was in 9/11, that you don't understand the world you live in. What we know, what I know, I interact with the families of 9/11, just so you know, and I hate the fact that Donald Trump hosted the Saudi Live Tour last summer on his golf course and said to everyone, while the families of the 9/11 survivors were protesting the course and the interaction with all things, and I can't stand the fact that Phil Mickelson, a former Sun Devil like myself, who partied at my house back in the day, ultimately ends up playing and selling his soul to the devil, playing on the Live Tour, when he went to the same university we both did that generated the likes of, the legendary fucking hero of all heroes, which I'm completely fucking up, and I'm going to have to go back now. Why the fuck couldn't I do it? This guy is like a fucking, it's in my mind almost every single day. Former ASU football player turned Afghan. Well, that'll just give me, because it'll come up, I guarantee it. Pat Tillman, of course. Pat Tillman, I can't. So, has it ever occurred to you, or has it ever happened to you, where you've got so much in your brain that you can actually not think about something that, like something as easy as like the name of your sister or something, right? Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was a fucking badass, a goddamn American hero, a smart guy, played his ass off. He was like this Nordic god, ends up going, giving up his NFL career to go fight in Afghanistan after 9/11 for all the heroic things. But he was also a little bit hesitant, and he's on the record about saying things that he wasn't sure if we were doing the right things, and he ends up getting killed by friendly fire, which happens, I guess, in war zones, especially if you're in the midst of, close combat, and he was a ranger and all of those things that go with it. And the military for many years had basically propped him up as this like hero, and we didn't know what happened. And then, of course, we found out that he was killed by friendly fire, which was a bit of a deflation to the whole thing. But the bottom line is, goddamn Phil Mickelson is playing ball with the Saudis, who had a huge involvement with 9/11. And what's on the record right now, okay, what we know is that the FBI had the evidence when the terrorist cells were in the United States, in Jacksonville and San Diego, how they got into the United States and who they were paid by, which, as it turns out, as reflected in the 28 redacted pages of the 9/11 report, went right back to Bandar bin Sultan, who was probably the face of Saudi Arabia and probably the biggest investor in huge companies like Fox News, for example, among other things. In fact, I've been to Vegas many times when Bandar would fly into Vegas with the 747-400 series with the Saudi flag on the back of it, and I just kept thinking, Jesus Christ, how does this whole fucking thing make sense? How are we allowing this to happen? Because we know that they paid for the terrorist cells to be here. And the FBI knew what they were studying, how they were studying it. And we've got I think it's $50 billion a year, intelligence apparatus to be able to prevent all of the shit that took place on 9/11. Do you think it's fucking possible that we did not know what they were doing? Well, we also have information that it got pushed up the food chain and it landed on Dick Cheney's fucking desk. And Dick Cheney, the vice president of the United States, who most of us understand is fucking Darth Vader, basically him and his posse got George Bush elected to basically, have a face, a freaking moron, so that all of these powerful entities behind the scenes just had a guy that, could, gee golly shucks, to the American people. Meanwhile, they own the whole fucking thing. It's pretty much public information, everything that Dick Cheney was involved with. Don't believe me? Go see a great movie that Adam McKay, the great filmmaker who did, among others, Talladega Nights, but then, of course, he did The Big Short and didn't understand what he was dealing with, and I've truth bombed on that a few times. As much as I love him, they didn't understand what happened in 2008, and then ultimately, he did Veep. I think it was the story of Cheney and what Cheney did to, undermine everything in government, which is part and parcel to this freaking corporate fascist empire undergirded by a criminal syndicate that uses socialism to fucking pay off the mafiocracy that's now creating fascism. Okay? So for those of you who have heard all of this stuff before, what am I saying that's any different than I said yesterday or the day before, or the day before that, or maybe the previous year and a half? There's not much. But here's the thing, it hasn't penetrated to the tens of millions of people that need to see it. I'll go back real quickly to my analogy of Stranger Things. So, the characters, God, what was his name? In fact, I'll look it up so I don't have to, get embarrassed by not knowing the names. I don't know why I get jammed up on names sometimes. Oh yeah, Hopper. Hopper's definitely one, and of course, who did Winona Ryder play? She was Myers, right? Byers. So Hopper and Joyce Byers. So those two characters, basically, when they discovered what was going on with, the MK Ultra and the underground labs and everything that created 11 and all of these other things, and they start to find out that, hey, wait a second, people are disappearing into the void. I know I'm confusing that with Shadow and Bone, but they're disappearing in this parallel world and the dangers, and it's all set up because of these and the scientific experiments and how that whole thing plays out to make a the fact is that they found out the system that's fucking basically destroying the community, and nobody's going to listen to them. So they have to do the deep dive, and they got to freaking figure this shit out, and then they got to overcome all of the things that are against them, and they do it with absolute brilliance. Okay, everybody involved in Stranger Things was on the right side of things. Same with Game of Thrones. Same with Peaky Blinders. They're all represented brilliantly in these long form series, and of course, all of the writers in Hollywood, who've ever known a great story are translating this stuff. Even the guys in Succession understand the world, right? But it's all basically fictional depictions. And what's happening in this scenario, guys, is I'm giving you the details.
of what the system is behind the curtain and how it fucking operates, and it's the emperor's new clothes. So again, what does it all mean? Why am I telling you this? What am I trying to do to break through, to somehow manage to get your brain to understand through this fucking pile of shit from both sides of media that are distorting and misinformation every single day? Going back to the point I saw last night on mainstream media, right? Particularly on those platforms that aren't Fox. Hey, we're going to fix the situation, and this is how we're going to do it with the AR-15 gun lobby. This is what we're going to do to fix what? Police brutality and systemic racism. This is what we're going to do to try to figure out the solution to climate change in a way that we're all going to fucking die from if we don't fix this shit. And, I could go on and on and on, right? Oh, yeah, by the way, and look at all the corruption, right? Okay, meanwhile, they're telling you all of this stuff, telling you what you want to hear, maybe making it sound a little bit rational, a little bit reasonable, as aside from me getting a little bit fired up. But the long and the short of it is, they're hiding what the fuck it is that I'm telling you. Okay? They're hiding what the goddamn deep dive secret fucking plan of the government with all of the, lies and deception and the betrayal of all of it to make sure you don't understand the fucking truth. That they're stealing your kids and they're fucking going to the Demigorgons, I think that's the name, and they're getting slaughtered, and you're not going to fucking put up with that shit, okay? It's that fucking simple. And I don't need to actually get to that level, but maybe I do. Look, guys, I know that there are more people in the United States that are good than evil. I know that. I just think that people are overwhelmed and they don't understand what's going on. So what's going on? What is it that I'm telling you? What I'm telling you is that we have a tiny sliver of power, okay, that has all of the control. How do they have all the control? Don't we have a free market? Aren't these guys like just great success stories that created market value and they're rich because of it and they should have their positions because they earned it? No. They fucking buried you and the American people by using deception and fraud, which is illegal, can be criminally prosecuted with the right people that are in positions of power who aren't corrupt, that use our own laws, which are on display every which way to Sunday with Donald Trump. But everything he exemplifies and mirrors that he's guilty of is exactly what I'm trying to tell you. But in this particular case, Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper and stupid Tucker Carlson doesn't even have a clue about this, although he might. I'm not quite so sure. He spends so much time lying and bootlicking Trump while telling everybody how much he hates him, and then everybody buys this stuff. It's insanity. But none of these people are telling you what I'm telling you. And especially Jon Stewart and Russell fucking Brand and Joe Rogan, who I have a lot of respect for. And I think Joe Rogan would tell it straight if Joe Rogan had the time to talk to me. Of all of them, I think Russell Brand's in his own little space trying to find, hey, I got to have likes. I got to have people watching me. Oh, 600 million people. Let's create the Great Awakening. But I don't understand what the fucking is holding us back. And I'm going to try to get you to the promised land. But yet I kind of know what's going on, but I don't. And then I'm going to mislead people because I'm playing. Dude, it's just stupid. Okay? The whole thing is stupid. What are they preventing you from understanding? That the system set up the fucking planet. What is the system? The financial system. How do they do it? Control fraud. What are the elements of control fraud? Watch The Con at www.thecon.tv. Why haven't you heard of The Con? Well, because BlackRock buried it, okay? Because none of these great platforms that that I'm dealing with that can get to hundreds of millions of people want to be able to show the case that actually they depend on, unfortunately, okay? Everybody depends on finance, but it's okay to finance honest business. Do you get it? You need finance. You need people to have great ideas. You need people to get great products to market. You need people to create great technology. Need people to create great, moves in technology for transportation and for medicine. We need all of that stuff, and you need to finance that stuff because nobody's doing anything for free that's got the education and the wherewithal and the smarts to be able to do what needs to be done to get the job done. Okay? That's how it works. Now, there's a lot of people out there that want a socialist country. What I continue to tell you is that you've got a socialist country. But for the 1% that stole it all through the fraud that I show you at www.thecon.tv. And oh yeah, by the way, you can see that at on YouTube, or you just go on line and do a search for The Real Progressives, The New Untouchables. It's all there. And then I've got, Patrick Global Truth Bombs the Con, where I've said this stuff every which way to Sunday. But again, let's go back to this concept, right? Where suddenly everybody's like, oh, the system's corrupt. Yeah, well, no shit, you fucking morons. It has been corrupt for a long time. Oh, now you're going to circle the wagons and you're going to find a pathway to fucking figure out the problems that we have with energy. Well, meanwhile, it looks like the government's all in on creating green electric cars. That's beautiful. Simultaneously, it's creating the largest drilling scenario in Alaska. Okay, so there's that. So they got to see a big picture that maybe some of us don't do, and everybody in the media misses, because they want to do the culture war shit that's based on all sorts of horrific tragedies, like the fact that we don't regulate goddamn military grade, fucking murder weapons so that deranged assholes can go murder children. Do I sound deranged because I'm fucking furious about this insanity, stupid shit that continues to fucking thrive in our society? Because they're playing you like the fucking fool. They're pissing on your head, telling you it's rain, and you can't see the forest for the trees because you're not listening. And I'm yelling because I don't know what else to do. So what is my point? How long have I been recording for? Fuck, I'm 20. I wanted to do 5 minutes. And I'm almost at 30 minutes. Why? Because there's a lot of shit going on. So let me just summarize it this way, okay? I spent years and millions of dollars getting the truth that can reveal everything, that it's the emperor's new clothes, that can take the whole system down, and I've got the access to the brilliant geniuses in situations of our government at the highest levels of the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, AGs around the country, the good guys that actually exist, but you don't know who they are and what they've done, because this monstrous fucking deception racket of media has buried the truth, so we get an ass clown like Trump who somehow becomes this lightning rod for the culture wars when the guy should have been in prison before he became president. That's how fucked up shit is. And then yet, we're going to somehow solve the problems, right? You're not going to solve the problems when you have the situation where the government is completely bought. Who's it bought by? The same entities that these yahoos and media are like, oh yeah, we're going to solve the problem. No, you're not! And BlackRock, Larry Fink, this guy is like, okay, he's going to create, they've talked about this woke sort of business model that Fox is all against and everything else. And meanwhile, they don't realize that if you think Dick Cheney was Darth Vader, who do you think frickin' Larry Fink is? The bottom line is he plays all sides. He's probably the biggest investor in Saudi Aramco that exists, because he got to fucking basically be the one guy that chose which direction the United States was going after the 2008 great financial crisis, because we pumped tens of trillions of dollars from the Federal Reserve through the Federal Reserve Act 13.3 illegally into this goddamn system that buried 50 million people. And then what do they do with the goddamn judiciary? Do the judges around this country look at some of the information that came into the courts and they're like, oh wait, there's something going on here. Oh, maybe I should stop it because I'm a judge who sits, and I got elected, or, I've got, they can't challenge me, especially if I'm on the Supreme Court. I'm appointed for life. And you know what? Maybe if you're on the Supreme Court, then you go on trips as a black American with a guy that collects fucking memorabilia from guys like fucking Adolf Hitler, who apparently got a signature of Mein Kampf, which was just revealed this morning. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay? So, look, I'm genuinely a happy guy. I'm genuinely a very positive guy. I'm genuinely a guy who, believes that the system can work. And that's why I got so pissed off when I realized they were pissing on my head, telling me it was rain when they must have thought I was some kind of new fool. Fuck them. I figured it out. I'm just as competitive, and I'm just as fucking ruthless when it comes to the truth as they are at lies. Yeah, I played football and I freaking played rugby for a long time. I've been in more fist fights than you can imagine. And I've jumped off goddamn gigantic cliffs, and I've climbed big walls, and I've surfed some big mountains. I've been face to face with sharks and crocodiles and all sorts of crazy ass shit in my life. And I've seen a lot of it. You know what I mean? So I don't have a lot of fear. What I have is hope, What I have is a commitment to the truth. What I have is a commitment to life, liberty, and justice for all. And if you, me, and everyone you see who isn't a Nazi, who believes in integrity and in sustainability and liberty and dignity and decency, then you have to step up. And the thing is that billionaires are spending billions to create this system to steal trillions so that you can pretend that somebody's going to try to fix something somewhere. And so you just switch the fucking screen until there's no chance to switch the screen because the whole world's going to fall on your head. How do we get through this? Well, we get through this because I've got a plan. And this plan is pretty fucking simple, okay? I'm a producer. I've got hundreds of hours of information and thousands of pages of documentation that can turn this whole thing upside down. I know exactly how the courts buried millions of people using illegal documentation fraud in the courts because they were getting paid because of what happened with the Federal Reserve when Timothy Geithner, the former Treasury Secretary under Obama, said, we're going to make the American people foam on the runway for the crashing financial system. Are you fucking kidding me? So my whole tagline has always been, I'm not expendable. Chances are you're not. But guess who is? The bastards that are fucking destroying the world while lying to you and getting away with it because they perverted and corrupted the law. Okay? What don't you get? And then they use that money to buy Congress, to buy the media, so that they lie to you, so that you don't understand how the system works, so that the demigorgons can fucking eat your children, and you like what? Cry about it? The guys in Stranger Things didn't cry about it, did they? They got busy getting busy. And that's what I'm asking you to understand, and that's what I'm asking you to do. See, here's the thing, right? So again, the billionaires get pay billions into the system to corrupt the system, to buy every fucking corrupt politician and judge there is, which is on display every single day, to tell you things that aren't true and to speak out of both sides of their mouths and then kick the can down the road. We have changed nothing over the last 23 years. Nothing! It continually and perpetually gets worse, and it's all part of the same scheme. Okay? And then guys that we think are good guys like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is a good guy, but he's useless, okay? Bernie Sanders said Wall Street's business model is fraud in 2016, and then he never told us how that fraud worked. How do I know? I had a front row seat because the guy who could have told him you did tell him how the system works, who became my mentor, was his consultant, okay? And so Bernie Sanders goes in front of the world in 2016 in the debates in Brooklyn, and in response to a question, by one of the, I think it might have, I'm just thinking, who was that guy? It might like Matt Lauer or somebody like that, somebody who has just been completely disgraced since because he raped everybody like Harvey Weinstein. Asked a stupid question. No, he asked the question, but he never followed up with any details. So what, Bernie Sanders says Wall Street's business model is fraud, which is the surface of everything I'm telling you. And that is just on display in everything I've done. www.thecon.tv. Okay? And there's more. So anyway, these guys are all bloviating. I always say it with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. I mean, they're platitudes people. Same with AOC. They're not fighting the system. They got a comfy situation. They get to sell books. They get to go to galas, like in the case of AOC, eat the rich or tax the rich on the back and not do anything. They're useless against the machine. So until you understand how the machine works, we're completely paralyzed. So what I'm doing is, again, you could literally put all the money on your credit cards, get yourself into debt, go into bankruptcy, have the world fall apart around you, have the same thing happen to you that happened to me in 2008, where ultimately, there's no safety. There's no place to safety. Maybe you lose your job and then you lose your family and then you go through hell. Maybe you wind up homeless. Maybe you commit suicide. That's happened to tens of thousands of people. And if it hasn't happened to you yet because you don't think it's going to happen to you, don't be so sure. In addition to whatever else is coming, because corruption births fascism. And especially to all of you like me who are Jews, and again, I'm not very religious, and I come from a mixed background, but the bottom line is I skew to Moses above all things, and like I laid it all out in my last truth bomb, which is Is this the end or just the beginning? And then ultimately, yeah, I do have the spiritual sort of connection to the universe. I mean, it's just such a trip, right? You got the Big Bang, you've got the dark side. I mean, well, you literally have black matter, right? You've got this expanding universe and this contracting universe. It's all incredibly interesting, right? But what about us? What about us? What society do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a system that has systemic fucking racism that can actually, go out with impunity and go shoot black men in the back or go throw at a higher rate of people that, maybe smoke marijuana that happen to be minorities and then throw them in jail and they can never get out? Is that the society that we think is justice? Well, these ass clowns like Trump get a fucking, immunity, and then idiots will give them millions upon millions of dollars, because he's lying to them? Because he's an orangutan Chumpenstein? I mean, it's just like this guy is so guilty of everything. And the bottom line is people who are like, oh yeah, we're law and order, so we're going to go for Trump. Fuck you, you're law and order, and you're going to go for Trump. That's the same bullshit for those who say right to life, and then you're like, no regulation on weapons of mass destruction. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, common sense and character and dignity is just no more a part of the equation. So that's why I got to find 1,300 of you that I know are like that. And then ultimately, look, the bottom line is this. This is the ask, right? I'm not asking you for your charity. I'm asking you to invest $13, okay? You spend that at breakfast if you go out. You spend it on your cable or Netflix subscription or whatever else, and so much more. And then, then one day, $13 is not a big ask, okay? But why are you going to give me $13? Is it because you want to hear me talk? I want to hear me talk. No, because we're going to get organized, okay? If I get 1,300 people to give us $13, and the way this should work, and I want to build this into the plan, is that, okay, look, for those of you who are the first 13 investors, you get 13 people in, you invest $13, you're going to get a t-shirt. We've got hashtags like freaking crazy, or maybe a sticker. These are all part of the development process right now. I don't have all the answers, but I do have all of the taglines, the hashtag lines. I mean, stuff like, failure is not an option. When you've got the truth, you're bulletproof. It's not rocket science. It's racketeering. The Clean New Deal, and many, many others that I can't think of off the top of my head. But I mean, it'll be all a convergence of this, because this is going to be a united populist tidal wave, from people of all sectors who believe, above all else, in dignity and decency and integrity and liberty and sustainability, so that we can purge tyranny. And you'll get, that. But if you're involved and you understand what we're talking about, which reveals all of the details of the devastating corruption that's manifested this country that has complete control, which is literally $29 trillion bigger than Watergate ever hoped to be. And that's how big this is. And the New York Times covered it up. Everybody covered it up. They just swept it under the rug. And if you want to double check me or fact check me, go check out literally all of the statements of facts that were in all of these settlements from the Department of Justice with all the banks, that the banks ended up paying $250 billion in fines for getting, at this point, like we're talking $70 trillion since 2009, okay, to a tiny percentage of people. And so, like I said before, if you're somebody who's like, hey, you know what, I want socialism, I'm telling you that we already have socialism for the ultra rich. If you're somebody who's like, look, we got to have a healthy, safe, planet, we're not going to get there given what's happened in the last 20 years and the relationship with Saudi and the dollar being the world's reserve currency predicated on the oil, infrastructure of the world. I think 75% of the economy of the globe is dependent upon oil, okay? And so we're not going to get there without the acknowledgement of what's happened. And then ultimately we got to put the brain work together of the smartest people in this country. We've had the answers for the last 3 fucking decades, and it just went on, it went on pause because of the situation. And now we're going with the electric cars, which is amazing. And that's got challenges as to its own and so forth. Okay, whatever. But whatever your issue is, as long as you're not a Nazi, okay? Because, reforming the gun lobby. I mean, we got to purge the gun lobby. I mean, literally, we've gotten to a point where we're allowing these Republicans to say things like, "Hey, we're right to life," and then they're fucking murdering children. Are you fucking kidding me? It's the dumbest fucking thing in the history of the world, in addition to everything else. We got a guy named George Santos. He's like the talented Mr. Ripley, but he's not talented. He's just George Costanza in that make-believe version. What else do I want to say since I've gone way longer and I fucked this up? I guess what I want to say in closing, because it is 10:13 a.m., so I'll finish on the 13. Look, 1,300 of you come in, you're gonna get a T-shirt. It's not a lot of skin out of your pocket. Again, we're saving the fucking world, and we're actually doing it non-violently. Maybe that's the thing that's hanging a lot of people up, because I'm saying it's gonna be a crusade to purge corruption. Yeah, but we're not gonna go create the reign of terror. We're not gonna go yank these guys out of their offices and cut their fucking heads off. I'd like to make an animated version of maybe us with a big water cannon as Jamie Dimon and all of these other CEOs come down with their attorneys and they go to their town cars, that we basically pulled out a water cannon and then fucking, just blast them down the goddamn sewer where they belong. Okay, that goes for Donald Trump. Things like that. We can be creative. We can be incredibly smart. But what I've got to do first and foremost is I've got to get a podcast off the ground, which takes money. So if 1,300 of you commit $13, right, you're going to get a T-shirt. You're going to get a bumper sticker, and we're going to do a podcast because I've got all of the right people. You're not going to just listen to Patrick Bloviate, okay? I'm going to give you details from the people from the FBI, the CIA, sorry, not the CIA, AGs, attorneys and, investigators and all the right people to get these truths to you that people like Jon Stewart don't have a fucking clue about. Jon Stewart goes and interviews a guy like Jamie Dimon. He doesn't even know that Chase has been freaking guilty of, I think, 5 counts of racketeering and all sorts of other crimes over the course of the last 7 years. They're recidivists, not to mention they're involved with laundering money all around the world. Many of you might react to the fact that, some of you are talking about this, that, you're aware that they not only did the business of Madoff, right, which is on display in that wonderful documentary on Netflix, but it's also none other than Jeffrey Epstein, okay? That's just one piece of this. They're all in on it, okay? So, and Jon Stewart doesn't know that. Jon Stewart interviewed Jamie Dimon, and he's like, he doesn't have any fucking idea about anything that Jamie Dimon has been involved with forever, least of which was the $13 billion settlement that he got for basically suppressing the information that I'm telling you. What else can I say? And I got to close this up. Oh, yeah. So basically, we'll do the podcast. And then after that, we're going to do, ongoing videos, ongoing every which way to Sunday, ways to get these messages to the people around the country to build the movement, because we need to get more and more and more and more investors in the American dream, in the resurrection of the American dream. That's what it is, to purge corruption. Why? Well, because once we get to, like, let's call it, I don't know, we're going to have somewhere in the $10 million to $20 million range to be able to pull off what I want to do, which is going to be a barnstorming tour that lays all this stuff out to the American people in a very demonstrative way that obviously would be free to the public, that we'll take it on the road, and we'll take it to Seattle, down the coast to LA, through the Southwest, obviously, to Austin, and then up through the Midwest all the way to, on our yellow brick road to Washington, D.C. And I have dreams of being in front of, the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, where he, of course, at Gettysburg in, 1863 said, a nation of, for, and by the people shall not perish from this earth. Because we'll be the exemplification of that, considering that we live in a corporate fascist state undergirded by a criminal syndicate that uses socialism to fucking pay the mafiocracy, or to guarantee the mafiocracy that is now creating fascism. By the way, that's not that complicated, okay? That's what it's always done. That's what power does. That's what the initial 13 colonies of the United States combined to thwart when they had the revolution that many of you want to be completely critical of, but you didn't do it. You didn't fight in the revolution. You didn't get the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You didn't lay out your life in the moccasins in the cold of Valley Forge and all the rest of it. Those guys did. And then the same goes for, but then we had slave owners. Oh, yeah, right. We also had abolitionists. And then we had the North that invaded the South after the South refused to play ball in order to form a more perfect union, because they wanted fucking slavery above all else. And yet we did break the bondage of slavery. We did that. You didn't do that. Our previous generation did that, right? They sacrificed beyond comprehension, and that was not an easy war. That was a freaking diehard in the gutter, fisticuffs. It was nasty, the Civil War, and the U.S. The North just had more industrial capacity and they had a bigger population. They wore down the South, but the South fought freaking heroically, not in a good way. I'm just saying they fought for their principles, what they thought were their principles, which is fucking fascism. Okay, but that's not the United States, okay? We've been battling this from the beginning. Yeah, it's an acknowledgement. Yeah, we had a problem with the North American Indian situation, which was horrible. I grant that, and same with a lot of other things. But guess what? Life is not fucking perfect, okay? Nobody is perfect. But to live in a society where you could have 9/11 go fucking unpunished, where you have 20 years where we just basically grease the skids of the war pigs, and then ultimately to continue fossil fuel, and then ultimately create this bullshit based on this globalism where we had to create the fake consumerism in the United States through fraud. But when it all blew up, we have this thing called the full faith and credit of the United States that's predicated on the world's reserve currency because of its relationship with oil. And ultimately, then we had all these denizens of disaster that own the fucking Fed, and nobody understands what the Fed is or does. And the Fed gave trillions of dollars to the guys who did it. So they keep the money up top, right? They keep the money up top. They keep that to keep you down. And the only way we're going to penetrate this bubble peacefully is to have you find $13 to save America, to save the dream in all of its facets, which is the rule of law first and foremost. But it's going to take money to do it. But I'm not asking you for $1,300 personally. I'm not asking you, let's just say you're a millionaire. Let's say that you're worth a billionaire and you want to give me $1,300 or $13,000 or maybe even $1.3 million. I don't want it. I want you to get 13 people so I can give you a t-shirt with the hashtags that we had. I want 13 million people to jump on board, because then we'd have a budget of $169 million, and then we would be in front of these people's faces. And who are these people? The goddamn government and our politicians lying to us, as well as media. Wouldn't you love to see a Rachel Maddow befuddled? Of like we put the question to Rachel Maddow. What, Rachel, how come you don't know this stuff? How come you don't know tens of millions of people got set up? And while you're talking about illegal documentation fabrication with Giuliani and Trump based on electoral certifications and the big lie, the real big lie, used tens of millions of documentation fraud to steal people's houses and put people in the street like African-American woman Addie Polk had to shoot herself 5 times in the chest. That people and I'll give you one last example here, and then I got to jump. The bottom line is my team, we were repped by a company out of LA, top 5 agency called Paradigm, okay? And they also represented none other than, and I got to look it up because I'm not going to search while I'm doing this. Let's just do the movie 13. Ava DuVernay, okay? So they represented Ava DuVernay. Ava DuVernay has done some great work, but she didn't want to tell this story. Ava DuVernay is connected to Oprah Winfrey. They didn't want to do this story. Did you know that Oprah Winfrey and Barack Obama are very close? Oh yeah. And did you know that, of course, Barack Obama let Wall Street get away with burying millions upon millions of Americans, most notably African Americans? That's not most notably. Okay, this is the other thing you got to understand. The 2008 Great Financial Crisis targeted initially to perfect the predation, the African American community, and the way it ultimately wound up is they destroyed 55% of African American household wealth. And then ultimately they blew up all the pensions, which was the white working class, okay? Because we farmed out, our productive capacity, and then we're living on fucking fumes basically with this mythical consumer society. But then ultimately the money managers, they shorted all of the shit that they created to destroy the pensions as well. I've got information, as I've told you before, that the Supreme Court of the United States ignored the evidence and the discovery of all the stuff that I'm telling you when in this lawsuit last summer between the Arkansas Teachers Pension Union and the pipe fitters and the Steel Union of America. So doesn't that tell you everything? The Supreme Court, just like Clarence Thomas, is working for the man. That's not separation of powers. That's not integrity of the law. That's what we've got. And so, again, if we can get $169 million in our war chest, we're going to create a new party, okay? We're going to create a new party of people that are like me, that have got all the facts, that are going to tell the world that they're lying to us. And in the process, I'm going to probably create a new media outlet that is hopefully vertical that will tell you truths that nobody else will. But that's not on this budget. This budget is primarily to get the podcast off the ground, and then to continue the build, and then hopefully we'll get to the national barnstorming tour. That's basically a populist tidal wave to purge corruption. Live Aid. Think about Live Aid. I'm Bob Geldof. Okay, I'm Bob Geldof, and you watch. If you build it, they will come. We will build, and we will build, and we will build, and we will find the people that don't want to live in a corrupt society. That's basically a new version of an invisible slave owner. Okay? You're expendable to them. They cheat, lie, steal, and cheat and deceive to keep the money up top, and that's what we've done for the last 13 years. Everything about this is the absolute perverse inverse of what the United States is supposed to be. It's like I tell you all the time. Corporate fascism undergirded by a criminal syndicate that uses socialism to guarantee the mafiocracy that's now paying for fascism. Did I make my point yet? Am I likable enough? Does it matter? Am I a good guy? Yeah, I'm a good guy. I'm really a good guy. I care about liberty and justice for all. I care about the dynamism of the free markets that are held in check by integrity of the law. I want to see bad guys and bullies get theirs. Okay? One way or the other. And I think this is the only way we're going to be able to do it. It's the only way. It's the only way. Because if you get into a thing where it's like, okay, hey, I'm going to go to this like version that wants to go socialism, you're not going to break the grip of corruption, especially without the details. If you're going to go into like, let's just say, I don't know, an identity politics sort of thing where it's like, I'm all about what women's issues are, but forgetting the entire systemic racism of the economy and the predation of that, okay, it's not going to work. And same if like you're an African American and you're like, look, it's all about African American issues and what involves me. You're not going to break the grip of this. It's going to take all of us to come together. That's why I say, if you, me, and everybody you see who isn't a Nazi, who believes in, dignity and integrity and liberty and sustainability and decency, then we're going to purge tyranny. Okay? That's the only way you can have separation of powers, guys. It's just fucking corruption. That's it. It's just a bunch of rich people who've lost their way, lost their minds on the crack of free money. And they've held everybody else down. I'm not expendable. You're not either. Okay? That's my pitch. I wanted to go 5 minutes, and I'm at, 52 minutes. All right? Whatever. If it falls on deaf ears, I don't give a flying fuck. I'm going to keep coming, and I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to keep doing everything I can until I see 1,300 of you, and then once we come together, then we're going to blow up the next level, and the next level, and the next level, and the next level, until we win. Why? Because everything is on the line. Okay, here's the last question, okay? Since I've gone this long. I believe in everything I've just said. Everything. What is it that you don't believe in? Really? You want to live in a society of tyranny and corruption and pollution that's going to destroy us all? That you want to stay down on your knees? I'm trying to empower you. This has got to be the ultimate exodus to resurrection. Okay? That's what this is. And I don't know why I'm the only guy that got the information that's willing to tell you like it is. I'm sorry, I'm a flawed guy. I know my personality is a little bit rambunctious sometimes. And you know what? Fuck it. Onwards and upwards. Rise, roar, revolt. By the way, that's 1 and 3. Peace out.